rockhopper penguins. It's not hard to see how they got their name. There are 5 species of penguin on the Falkland Islands, and Rockies, as they're called here, are the smallest, the most numerous, and, they say, the most aggressive. Although it was the conflict of 1982 that brought the Falklands to world attention, the animals here have always had a battle to fight. The battle for survival. For 6 months of the year, the rockhoppers are at sea. No one knows much about what they do there, but even during the breeding season, when they're based on shore, they must return to the sea from time to find food, mostly squid and shrimps of one kind or another. In this, the Rockies are typical of many Falkland animals. Although they spend some part of their lives on land, they never cease to be dependent on the oceans on their doorstep. The vast, food-rich waters of the South Atlantic. A summer day in the Falklands. The islands are at the same latitude south of the equator as London is to the north, and the temperature is quite mild. Slightly cooler than ours in summer, slightly warmer in winter. But the wind is relentless. More than 700 islands, their land area only the size of Wales, their combined coastlines as long as Norway. It's a place for some remarkable animals, many of them more at home in the water than on land. This flightless steamer duck is found nowhere else in the world. Already the ducklings have learned the value of shelter. Although they can't fly, these steamers are well able to get around. By paddling violently with wings as well as feet, they speed along in a cloud of spray. The Falklands has no mammal predators on land, and here the ducks thrive. How do other animals deal with this strange lifestyle, equally at home on land and in the water? As the wind drops a little, a king cormorant struggles back with a beakful of nest material. Cormorants, too, are ocean-going birds and expert divers, feeding on the fish and crustaceans that sustain so many other creatures here. The colony is a mixed one, the cormorants living in close but peaceful proximity with nesting rockhoppers. The cormorants are the master builders. They have constructed these foot-high nest platforms of mud and peaty fibre and now are lining them with dry grass. But first there's a pause to dry out after the storm. The smell of ancient fish rises from the mud. To keep their plumage in good condition, Rockies use oil from a special preen gland on their rump, and, as a consequence, the feathers around it are rather worn. Fetching nest material involves a long and arduous journey, so it's no wonder that there are fights over it when it arrives. It's much easier to pinch someone else's than to collect it yourself. Even easier to sneak in and steal material from an unattended nest, and king cormorants are champions at this. But they're beaten at their own game by the Rockies. Some pairs don't just pinch the nest material, they take over the entire nest and spruce it up for their own use. By contrast, a custom-built rockhopper nest is a very poor affair. A few beakfuls of wet mud, a pebble or two, and there it is. The first days of December mark the arrival of the bull sea lions coming on shore to breed. When he hauls out, one of these huge males can weigh 1/3 of a ton. But throughout the 2 months breeding season, they take no food at all. Each bull sets up territory on the beach and waits for the females to arrive. Only the male has the thick, shaggy mane, which gives them their name of sea lion. He advertises his strength by rearing up his massive head and neck and roaring. Elephant seals too come on shore here to breed, but the adults have already dropped this year's pups earlier in the summer. Most of the seals on shore now are young animals, free from family responsibilities. Behind them, in the tussock grass, is a nest. The nest of one of the rarest birds of prey in the world, the striated caracara. Johnny Rook is its local name, and it's found in very few places other than the Falklands, and here only on outlying islands. These two birds, a mature female and a younger male, paired for the first time last year, but failed to rear young. This year, they already have eggs in the nest. The caracara breeding cycle is timed to coincide with that of the rockhoppers. Rockies are their chief prey, and soon they'll have chicks to feed. The colony on the cliff is chattering with activity. The male Rockies have been at sea feeding up, while the females take first shift, incubating the eggs. Now they're returning to take over from their mates. Great skuas are constantly on the wing, ready to pounce on any egg that may get dislodged or left unguarded. They hover and maneuver in the wind with great agility. They even seem to fly backwards. But they have another strategy too. Unobtrusively, they settle all round the edge of the colony and wait their chance. If one creates a diversion, others nip in to seize an egg, but only if the penguins are looking the other way. Meanwhile, the airborne attack continues. A sudden pounce secures an egg, but it drops. Many penguin eggs can be lost this way. The odds are pretty evenly matched. The skuas are sharp-eyed, numerous, and fast on the wing. But though the rockhoppers are earthbound, they're tough, aggressive little birds, and they pack a vicious peck. Perhaps this is one way the cormorants benefit from their unlikely neighbours. But behind the rocks lurks a much greater danger. The karakara is intent on a kill. In a flash, it grabs a cormorant. The male first satisfies his own hunger. He will take the rest to his mate at the nest. Rockhoppers share their colonies with other birds as well as king cormorants. Each one of these dots is the nest of a black-browed albatross. Mollimawk is the local name. 3/4 of the world population nest on the Falklands' remoter islands. These gentle giants, with their 7 to 8 foot wingspan, spend half the year at sea, where they sail gracefully over the waves in search of squid and fish. But now, in early December, the mollimawks are back on their mud pillar nests. A pair will use the same nest year after year. Waddling among the albatrosses, the Rockies look incongruous, opposite extremes in the bird world, one might think. But here again, the species nest peacefully together. Albatrosses pair for life for good practical reasons. Bringing up chicks in this harsh environment needs a full contribution from both parents, and good teamwork pays off. This may well be a pair of many years standing, renewing their courtship for another breeding season. Even a successful pair will only produce one chick, and if that one fails, there can be no replacement that year. But that single chick gets all the care and attention that's going. This new chick is fed with a nutritious liquid pre-digested in its parent's stomach. The rockhopper nests in this mixed colony are very much at ground level. No doubt the surrounding high-rise nests of the albatrosses give them protection from skuas and other aerial predators. The mollimawks seem very tolerant of their small neighbours. But even so, there are some disadvantages of this sort of togetherness. Many mollimawk colonies are on high rocky ledges where the birds can simply launch off into the air. At sea level, it's more difficult. Here they use traditional runways, taking off into the prevailing wind, if they can. But once airborne, they're a joy to behold, gliding and circling in their true element. Many Falkland birds are birds of the open sea, like the giant petrel, a champion ocean scavenger, dipping a wing tip in the waves as it looks for food. Like the albatrosses, giant petrels come on shore in early summer to nest. Return to the colony is greeted with heraldic posturing and throaty squawks. The braying call signals the presence of another of Falklands penguins. It's correctly called the Magellanic penguin, but because of this donkey serenade, it's generally known as the jackass. Their nests are in underground burrows or beneath stools of tussock grass. The jackass's route to the sea is less precipitous than the rockhoppers, but today there may be danger for them too. Killer whales. A small pod, a family group probably, feeding inshore. Killers are commonly seen around the Falklands, perhaps in pursuit of prey like seals or dolphins, but they take penguins too. Killer whales hunt as a team. That's the secret of their success. One individual will round up potential prey and drive it into the jaws of the waiting group. They follow their victims right into the shallow water without fear of stranding. But at present, there's better feeding out in the bay. Not all animals come on shore either to breed or to feed. The breeding elephant seals dropped their pups here last October, and most have now returned to sea. But now there's a second invasion of younger animals, which have come ashore to molt. As the itchy patches of old skin flake off, the seals are attended by probably the cheekiest of all Falkland animals, the tussock bird. It seems they can reach the parts the seals themselves cannot reach. And it's not just scraps of skin the tussock birds are taking. These sharp little beaks seem to be extracting some sort of skin parasite. Perhaps they're maggots. Bluebottles are one of the less welcome settlers on the Falklands, accidentally introduced in the 18th century. It's said that these southern elephant seals have more flexible spines than their cousins in the northern hemisphere. But clearly not flexible enough to dislodge a tussock bird. In the nest above the beach, 2 chicks have hatched, caracara chicks. Only a day or 2 old, they still have the egg tooth with which they chip their way out of the shell. In comes the mother with food, a penguin chick. Rocky chicks are the principal diet of the young caracaras. The parent takes the body to the family larder to tear off a beakful suitable for her tiny chicks. This is a typical caracara nest site, sheltered in the tussock grass. Tussock is a remarkable plant. It can grow up to 10 feet, Falkland's nearest equivalent to a forest, and it's important to many sorts of wildlife. And like many Falkland animals, tussock needs the sea. It won't grow without salt spray blowing over it. Johnny rooks don't need the surrounding seas in the same direct way as penguins or sea lions, but they need them at second hand, so to speak. To breed in summer, to survive in winter, they depend on ocean-going animals for their food. The rockhoppers, too, have chicks in the nest, protected from the chilly winds under a fold of skin. This Rocky has 2 chicks. That's unusual. Rockhoppers lay 2 eggs, but oddly the first egg is noticeably smaller than the second, and usually that first chick doesn't survive. This single chick is more typical. During the 1985-6 season, there was a sudden crash in the rockhopper population. Thousands of birds died. What was the cause? Biologists went into action to find out. Overfishing is a danger, but not to blame at present, they think. There is some heavy metal pollution, but again, probably not the cause. The Rocky deaths were almost certainly due to natural causes. The cool South Atlantic currents were diverted for a time by abnormal winds, and as a result, Rockies were deprived of the dense shoals of squid, which are their principal food. They simply starved to death. The currents and the squid have now returned to normal. In rocky nests all over the islands, parents are once again brooding healthy chicks. But penguin chicks come in different sizes. This one is 3 feet tall. It's a young king penguin. King penguins are the largest and most handsome of the island species, and this Falkland colony is the most northerly in the world. They have an unusual breeding cycle. They only breed twice over 3 years. In the first year, they may lay early in the season, in the second, late in the season, and in the third year, not at all. This adult has bred early and is incubating. Kings make no nest. The single egg, twice the size of a goose egg, is balanced on its feet, protected by a skin pouch. This huge chick must have been hatched towards the end of last season, say in February, and is now about 10 months old. This extended breeding cycle, one of the longest in the world, is connected with the length of time it takes to rear such a big chick. The downy feathers will protect it from the bitterly cold winds, but they're worse than useless in water. The chick will have to molt them and replace them with waterproof adult feathers before it goes to sea. As midsummer approaches, a bull sea lion is still waiting to claim a female. Another has already staked his claim. Female sea lions look quite different from males, gentle, golden-skinned, and less than half their weight. Females start to arrive on the beach shortly after the bulls and are claimed in open conflict. The contest is violent. Females are often tugged and torn by the teeth of their suitors. Each male will claim as many females as he can. The females are already pregnant when they arrive. The first pups are dropped around Christmas Day. Shortly afterwards, they mate again before heading for the open sea. The whole event takes no more than a few weeks. But several bulls are still without a harem. Late in the day, another summer storm starts to blow up. Many Rockies, females especially, are returning from their day's fishing. They must leap ashore and up this almost vertical precipice to return and feed their chicks. They take advantage of a particularly powerful wave to sweep them up the rock face. Those who succeed hang on with their sharp claws, but many get swept down again. These rockhopper landing pads have been in use for hundreds of years. Many are scarred by the marks of generations of tiny claws. Day after day, year after year, these small penguins, weighing no more than a few pounds, have been fighting their way ashore. Miraculously, the penguins are hardly ever injured in this perilous proceeding, nothing that a shake and a preen won't put right. Above the colony stands a reminder of the human conflict which took place on these islands. But the rockhopper colony is at peace. After a natural disaster, rockhopper numbers are gradually recovering. At present, Fortress Falkland is a fortress for penguins as well as for people. But the Falklands and its wildlife are beleaguered by many dangers. Some of them could be the result of its newfound prosperity. Pollution and over-exploitation of the oceans could be hazards. So could the wrong sort of interest in wildlife. The fortress needs our constant vigilance.